My full name, Harold Arthur Nelson.
And your birth date?
Birth date?
Huh?
Birth date?
February the 28th, 1915.
And where were you born?
Where were you born?
Woolback, Nebraska.
Okay, and your folks were moving from one farm to another?
Yeah, they moved from one farm to another farm about 6 miles in a lumber wagon. And my mother said I would have been a March baby if I hadn't ridden that lumber wagon. It shook me loose. So I was born February the 28th instead of March the 1st.
Shook you loose. And so, where did you grow up primarily before the war?
Where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up? Woolback, Nebraska.
Okay.
Doing what?
Doing what? Well, I lived on a farm and helped farm for umpteen years. I went to 12 years, walked 3 miles to 12 years of school every day. That's 6 miles every day for 12 years.
Wow. And when World War II started, what were you doing?
When World War II started, what were you doing?
I was, I guess, working for Keebler Company.
No.
Merchants business.
No. When World War II started, put this plug better in your ear. You're not hearing what I'm saying.
It's noisy.
Put it in your ear better.
Well, it's in my ear far enough, but it's noisy.
Well, I need to turn it down, but you need to keep your face towards him. He's talking to you.
Okay.
What were you doing when World War II started?
Gee,
You were in Nebraska.
yeah. I was running a filling station in Nebraska with my dad when I got drafted. I was the first draftees in Nebraska.
Now it's
There was about, I think, 17, something like 17 of us.
Okay, and then what happened?
I went to Fort Ord, California,
Okay.
where I did my Army training. So
try to get him to just walk me through the whole.
you're taxing my memory too much.
Well, it's a good thing you wrote it down when you could remember. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So then you had basic training at Fort Ord.
Yeah. Camp Roberts.
And then what happened? You were shipped.
I was shipped to Virginia and made some more amphibious trainings before we were shipped overseas.
So he just wants to know kind of the story of what happened next and next.
Well, we made the invasion of French Morocco. And then we went on to East Africa to capture Rommel, but the English had already made him surrender. So we done some more training in Africa to make an invasion of Sicily. And we invaded southern Sicily and walked all the way across.
The invasion of Sicily, isn't that where you got wounded?
Yeah,
you were in the water.
Well, no, I had a bullet go through my helmet.
Okay, through your helmet.
I didn't get wounded there.
Okay. But there was a lot of shooting when you were heading for land.
Yeah, that sure was. And we got off of the landing craft, LCI, which is an infantry landing, pretty good sized ship. And the Germans sunk it after we landed. And after we landed, we walked all the way across Sicily in 3 days and 3 nights with no water, hardly any food, hardly any sleep. I found some cattle footprints that had water in it. So I took my canteen cup and dipped some water out of the footprint, put it in my helmet and put chlorine tablets in it, and me and my men had a drink of water. Called footprint water.
I hope it was water.
Well, it was wet anyway. It was
wet.
probably was good.
We didn't get much each out of it after I gave my men a swallow.
Yeah, I'm sure. Everybody got a swallow.
I need to know his rank and his unit he served with, that kind of thing, so I can just have it. I know it's on that, probably on that paper, but
You
I want
want
to
to
hear
do
him.
it now?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll jump it in.
He wants to know your rank and the unit that you served in.
I was in the F Company of the 7th Infantry of the 3rd Infantry Division.
As a your rank.
Well, I was PFC and a sergeant and a master sergeant.
And
Then I went overseas.
what were you when you went overseas?
I guess I was a staff sergeant. I don't remember for sure. I was in charge of. Where's my coat? I was in charge of a platoon of 40 men. And very few of my men came back. Now, where do you want to go from here?
I want to describe the landing on.
So, which of your 6 amphibious landings was the most difficult?
Well, I guess the one in southern Sicily, I guess.
Because
We were under enemy fire, machine gun fire there, and I think that's when I got that bullet through my helmet.
is that the one that they didn't land at the right place and it was full of coral in the bottom?
No, that was Africa.
Okay, so go from Sicily to, where do you go from Sicily?
We made 3 amphibious invasions in Sicily.
Were those all,
But-
all off of LCIs?
What?
Were those all off of LCIs?
No, those were Higgins boats. The one in southern Sicily was LCI landing ship, which was sunk. And then we went across Sicily and made 2 amphibious invasions in northern Sicily. Out of rubber rafts, out of rubber pontoon boats.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I got the shrapnel in my chest. And went on and captured Mount Etna, which was the last fighting in Sicily. From then on we trained in Sicily to make a landing at Salerno, Italy. But there was no fighting at Salerno. We went on to Anzio, where we fought the Germans, had captured all that area there, and we put on a front line of resistance in Italy for about 2 years before we got out of Italy. Lived in the ground with not a roof over my head for over 2 years. I had my clothes off one time in 2 years.
Wow.
We came across a waterfall in Italy, so me and my men all took our clothes off and took a shower. And then from there on we went on across Italy and captured a bunch of Germans. It's on that trip that I supposedly got the Silver Star that I never did get. There were Germans in a vacant house firing at us, trying to go across Italy. And I saw a tank there by that house. Our tank had hit a mine. So I ran to that tank, got up on the tank, and shot the machine gun in the windows and the doors of the house, and the Germans surrendered. But they threw I never got wounded there, but they threw a hand grenade out that blew my pack off my back. It didn't hurt me any, but I smelled blood. But I looked and I didn't find any blood. So, but you can smell blood, whether you know it or not. So from there we went on to Cisterna, Italy, where we stayed for several days and went on to capture Rome. That was the end of the fighting in Italy.
And you stayed in Rome by the Colosseum?
Yeah, I dug a foxhole right on the south side of the Colosseum.
Really?
The last time we were there, it was growing up in the weeds. You were along.
Mm-hmm, I saw it.
So you found the spot?
Well,
Or
the area, general area.
But we
Looked different.
got on some kind of landing boats to land in northern Sicily. Two boats full, me and my men, and we captured Mount Etna, which is a southeast corner of Sicily. And we captured that, so we captured Sicily. And on to Italy, which we didn't have much resistance landing in Italy. But I lived there for 2 years. Same clothes on for 2 years. I had my shoes off twice. I changed my socks. I wore 2 pairs of socks. I put the inside ones on the outside about every month. Put the outside ones on the inside.
That's some
Oh.
for sure.
Tell him about your sea rations on the shelf in the foxhole.
The what?
When you were in the
Oh,
foxhole, the tank
yeah.
was blowing it up.
Yeah, we'd been dug in. I had a pretty fancy foxhole in Italy because I lived in it for almost 2 years. And I made a shelf on the side of the foxhole to set my sea rations. And one day, here comes a tank shooting at me, trying to hit me in the foxhole. But I was down too low. But they shot up all my sea rations, so there went my meal for the day.
Which wasn't a whole lot to begin with. What was it? What were your sea rations?
A can of beans, a can of stew, and a can of biscuits. A little can. Well, they were smaller than this. Sea rations were about that big, but they were about that high. That was what we ate for a long time until we got K rations, which were better.
Where did you have the lamb?
Huh?
Where did you have the lamb?
In Italy.
Tell him about the lamb.
The lamb that I shot?
Uh-huh.
Well, there we were dug in there, and there's a bunch of sheep running around there. Had been running around for weeks and weeks. I shot one of them and butchered it. I went to the tank. They had some bacon grease, so I got a bonfire and got some grease from the tank and fried some lamb for my men. So that was the only fresh meat we had in 2 years.
So it was because you were a farmer that you knew how to butcher the lamb.
Nobody knew how to butcher lamb. I still don't know how I did it, but I did.
You better take a sip of your coffee. Your voice is squeaky.
It's cold.
Do you ever talk about anything,
Yeah, my daughter's running.
I don't want to press that, if he has any particular thing that stands out.
Well, it wasn't a very pleasant life, but at least I lived and most of them didn't.
What's your worst memory?
What?
What's your worst memory?
I don't know.
Each day was a worst one, wasn't it?
I don't remember. What was the worst one? Maybe you.
Well, you had, who was blown up right next to you?
Oh.
Just the soles of their feet were left.
Oh. Yeah, that's one was kept in northeastern Sicily. We were in single file, and one of my men stepped on a mine, blew his foot off, and I got a piece of shrapnel in my chest right here. It didn't go into my chest; it just stuck in my ribs, and I pulled it out and threw it away. So, and two boats full of us made landing in northern Sicily and captured Mount Etna. Yeah, I guess it's Mount Etna in Sicily. It's either Mount Etna or Mount Vesuvius. I don't know which anymore. Because we took both Mount Vesuvius and Mount Etna.
How many men did you lose?
You had 40 men when you started?
Yep.
And what'd you tell me? 7 of them came home?
7 of them.
7 of them what?
7 of us came home.
Yeah.
Over that 2 deaths?
Oh, maybe some of the others came home wounded, I don't know.
Well, and they kept sending you new recruits, so I'm sure lots of times you didn't know how many men. It was just chaos.
I got 21 replacements one night. I ended up with 8.
Oh, dear.
We were dug in. Those new recruits, they had no idea what war was about. So I had them dig a foxhole on the side of the hill And all night long I hear, Sergeant Nelson, I'm hurt. Well, I couldn't do anything. It was dark, but a shell had wounded him in their foxhole.
Yep, too many shells flying.
Plenty of them.
And food and drink were a problem a lot of the time. You had
Well, you can you can get along without food, but water is something else. In Africa, the people in Africa had rainwater cisterns at the house, like we had on the farm. I took my helmet and my belt, two or three belts tied together, and dipped water out of that cistern and got water for my men, filled their canteens, my canteen.
And then you milked a cow.
Well, sometime along there I milked a cow.
Well, tell him about that. Tell him that story.
Well, I was in the foxhole. This cow had been roaming around there for days, hadn't been milked. So I got up. She let me milk her in my helmet. I got, I don't know, I think about 3 helmets full of milk, and give my men a drink of milk.
You did a great job looking out for your men, didn't you?
He said you did a great job looking out for your men.
They treated me like I was king. My men thought a lot of me.
Well,
Fact is, they practically worshipped me. I guess it's because I was old as original.
well, and you probably had a lot more life experiences
That's for sure,
than
isn't it?
most of them did.
Yeah.
Not many lived through what I lived through. And I'm probably the only one that made six amphibious invasions under enemy fire and lived.
How did you get off the boats when you made the invasions?
Well, we were training, after we took part of Sicily, we trained on western Sicily to capture northern Sicily, northeast Sicily. What was I going to talk about? What was I talking about?
How did you get off the boats when they pulled in?
How do
You had a pack on your back. You had
we?
your weapon,
We just jumped over the side or off the front and into the water.
and you couldn't swim.
No.
And you had how big a pack on your back?
Oh, about 40 pounds, I think. I don't know.
And your weapon, and you somehow made it to shore.
The rifle and the ammunition was the heavy part. We finally made it to shore under enemy fire.
Which of the landings did you have to go down the rope?
Africa.
So what kind of boat was that?
Higgins boat, if you know what they were.
I do.
They were just a pretty fair-sized boat, hold a company of men. It would hold about 40 of us in that boat.
So tell us about coming into the wherever it was and how the waves were and how you had to go down the ladder and...
Well, we had to go down the ladder into these Higgins boats. The Higgins boats was over 10 feet up and 10 feet down. Some of my men broke their legs. I made out okay. And then we went to hit the shore. It was coral rocks and not sandy beach. We were supposed to land on a sandy beach. I don't know if you know what a coral rock is. They're like steeples. And they went through the bottom of those Higgins boats. I waded, I floated, I stumbled. I made it across.
Did you get all cut up?
Did you get cut up, or were you protected with your clothes?
I didn't get hurt any. No. There was no enemy fire where we landed because we landed where they didn't think we were going to.
Oh, that's probably
They thought we were going to land on that sandy beach. But I guess it's a good thing we didn't. Even landing on those coral rocks was a project.
Yeah. I'm sure it was.
So did you get treated for any of your wounds?
No. I treated them myself.
And how did you know when your appendix was having trouble?
Oh, that was in the Eastern Africa. One was training for landing in southern Sicily from northern Africa. I had my appendix out on a cot in a tent, and you can't even see the scar. And now they got all kinds of contraptions before you even think about getting operated on.
And they sent you right back out on the line.
Oh yeah, 3 days I was back on the front line. I took out my own stitches. Had trouble with one of them, didn't want to come out.
You had a guardian angel in many different places.
Yeah, I sure did. So,
And when did you get the word you could come home?
well, we'd been in Cisterna, which was a town, we captured the last fighting town in Sicily. We went on to Rome then, where we supposedly trained for invasion of France. But I was going up the gangplank to get on the landing boat to invade France. And my company clerk said, "Hey, Harold, you don't have to go. You get to go home on furlough." That was the best words I ever heard. I had the longest service and the longest whatever in our war. So I was the first one. That was Ruskowski.
Okay.
He come a running when I was going up the gangplank.
Well, good.
"Hey, Harold, you don't have to go."
Yay.
So I got to come home.
Tell me, if you can, tell me a little about Infantry.
Yeah, but we better not talk about war. I'll be dreaming of war.
I know.
I'll fight that plenty.
Who was your best buddy?
Mexican from Mexico. He stayed with us at my house sometime. You remember? I can't remember his name. He and I lived in the same foxhole quite a while. And in Germany, we had built some kind of cover over our foxhole from some old sticks we found, and a shell hit right on top of it. It blew the top off, and who was it? they got me. And I said, where? Right here. Oh, that's just a dent in your helmet. And I heard he didn't have his helmet on, he just got dirt in his hair. I had my helmet on, so it didn't bother me.
No, he thought the dirt was injury.
Huh?
He thought the dirt was injury.
He thought he got injured in it. I rubbed the dirt off and, oh, that's just dirt. But he was scared to death. So was I.
What was the weather like? I mean, he was there for a long time, so he
What was
experienced
the weather like?
Well, you mean for 2 years?
Well,
There was a lot of rain, and it was cold and wet. And we had no other clothes. We had to wear the same clothes for the war.
you didn't have much covers.
And the dang foxhole in Italy would fill with water unless you were up on a hill from seepage water. It was a mess. But I lived.
Did you have covers to sleep with?
Covers, one army blanket.
One army blanket.
That's all we had.
And it was probably
And it was
wet.
wet.
It was wet.
It was cold.
Gosh.
But younger days, I guess we could take that.
Well, please tell
Yeah,
me.
we better quit talking about the war, honey.
That's fine.
So they can know your story also.
Okay. Well, it wasn't a very pleasant life.
Not
No.
back then it wasn't, you're right.
But that's why we're
But
so thankful for
I lived and others didn't.
Yep, and that's why